You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. All right, folks, last night, round 2 Democratic debate on CNN. Y'all know I didn't watch. I told y'all, but I saw some clips, some back and forth. Senator Kamala Harris, Vice President Joe Biden, folks got into it. Even Senator Cory Booker brought up some Kool-Aid. Here's a roundup of what took place last night.
Cozy on me, kid.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Fact is that the bills that the president, the future president here, that the senator is talking about are bills that were passed years ago, and they're passed overwhelmingly. Since 2007, I, for example, tried to get the crack powder cocaine disparity totally eliminated. In 2007, you became mayor. You had a police department you went out and you hired Rudy Giuliani's guy. You engaged in stop and frisk. You had 75% of those stops reviewed as illegal. You found yourself in the situation where 3 times as many African-American kids were caught in that chain and caught up. The Justice Department came after you for saying you were engaging in behavior that was inappropriate. And then, in fact, nothing happened the entire time you were mayor.
Thank you, Senator Booker. You want to respond?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful that he endorsed my presidency already. But I'll tell you this, it's no secret that I inherited a police department with massive problems and decades-long challenges. But the head of the ACLU has already said, the head of the New Jersey ACLU, that I put forth national standard-setting accountability. Mr. Vice President, I didn't interrupt you. Please show me that respect, sir. We have a system right now that's broken. And if you want to compare records, and frankly, I'm shocked that you do, I am happy to do that. Because all of the problems that he is talking about, that he created, I actually led the bill that got passed into law that reverses the damage that your bills that you were, frankly, to correct you, Mr. Vice President, you were bragging, calling it the Biden crime bill up till 2015.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Biden.
Number one, the bill he talks about is a bill that in our administration we passed. We passed that bill that you added on to. That's the bill, in fact, you passed. And the fact of the matter is, secondly, there was nothing done for the entire 8 years he was mayor. There was nothing done to deal with the police department that was corrupt. Why did you announce in the first day a zero-tolerance policy of stop and frisk and hire Rudy Giuliani's guy in 2007 when I was trying to get rid of the crack cocaine?
Mr. Vice President, there's a saying in my community, you're dipping into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor. You need to come to the city of Newark and see the reforms that we put in place. The New Jersey head of the ACLU has said that I embraced reforms, not just in action, but in deed. Sir, you are trying to shift the view from what you created. There are people right now in prison for life for drug offenses because you stood up and used that tough on crime, phony rhetoric that got a lot of people elected, but destroyed communities like mine. This isn't about the past, sir. This is about the present right now. I believe in redemption.
You, Senator.
I'm happy you evolved.
I want to bring in
but
Secretary.
you offered no redemption to the people in prison right now.
I want to bring in.
Yeah, let's talk about math. Let's talk about math. Let's talk about the fact that the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies last year alone profited $72 billion. And that is on the backs of American families. And under your plan, status quo, you do nothing to hold the insurance companies to task for what they have been doing to American families. In America today, a diabetes patient, 1 in 4 cannot afford their insulin. In America today,
Thank you, Senator.
for those people who are overdosed from an opioid, there is a syringe that costs $4,000 that will save their life. It is immoral, it is
Thank you, Senator.
untenable, and it must
Your time is
change
up,
with
Senator.
Medicare for all.
A lot of other stuff happened. Let's break it down with our panel. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College. Joseph Williams, senior editor, U.S. News and World Report. Michael Brown, former vice chair, DNC Finance Committee. First off, you had, of course, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She goes after Senator Kamala Harris about her record there. How do you think Senator Harris handled the questions, the charges from Tulsi Gabbard?
I was disappointed. Actually, Kamala Harris, a friend, Bay Area native. I think she did so well in the first debate. I think she did less well this time. She's great on offense. She's less well on defense. And that meant that she kind of equivocated. Now, the sister was a prosecutor. What do prosecutors do?
Prosecute.
They prosecute. So people going back on her record saying she was a prosecutor, yeah, that's what she did. That's what she ran for. I think Tulsi Gabbard, everybody knew that she was going to go after Kamala. It was reported in the media. And so Kamala should have been much better prepared. She could have eviscerated her, and she didn't do it.
Here's the deal, Joseph. The reality is there are going to be things a prosecutor has done that people are going to disagree with. When Gabbard talked about the withholding of evidence, at the end of the day, it either happened or it didn't. And for me, if it happened, that's when you say it was a screw up. We shouldn't have taken that position. You apologize for it, then you move on. What you don't do is try to do what Joe Biden did with the criminal justice reform bill, where you try to explain away, oh no, you try to create an alternative reality versus coming out like there are some things that you actually screwed up. But as a prosecutor, you're going to be challenged on any number of things. She talked about, oh, you laughed about smoking marijuana. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody said, well, smoking marijuana and selling marijuana are two separate things. But at the end of the day, I don't think her response was strong enough. And she should have easily, that was going to come up. And I think what's going to happen, every other person who's running is going to look at that tape and say, in the next debate, I'm going to be hitting Harris on her record as DA and as Attorney General.
Yeah, because you're looking for a moment. You're looking for a
Right.
breakout moment. And those breakout moments, with her record as a prosecutor, they're practically littered all over the place. I mean, there are judgments. This is the way the criminal justice system works. And if you're trying to explain away, you've already lost the argument. But she should have been better prepared. I agree with Julianne. And the thing is that by contrast, Biden was involved with this from the jump. He was writing the laws as they were happening. And so you've got a different dynamic. Somebody who writes the laws and somebody who's charged with enforcing them. You know, there's discretion either way, but I think at the end of the day that the record of a prosecutor is a lot more difficult to defend than the record as a senator who wrote the law.
Especially, Michael, the record as a prosecutor a decade ago is different than a progressive prosecutor today. And so when she says I was a progressive prosecutor when she was a DA, it looks totally different than Krasner today in Philadelphia. It's different than Fox in Chicago. It's different than Wesley there in St. Louis. It's a different view.
Yeah, I don't know why on some of these answers people don't say, you know what, times have changed. And maybe I've even evolved. It's easy, and then you're able to move past it. I think people are getting so wrapped up in trying to defend, and they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to say sorry.
Because the deal is, if I admit I was wrong, I got to admit again and again and again. But what's going to happen, Michael, is again at some point, if you like Biden, if you stay stubborn on it, they're going to keep tagging you until you go ahead and hold on one second, go finish.
No, absolutely, and that's I think the challenge is we'll see. Obviously, this field's going to whittle down. But I still, you know, you've heard me talk about this, and I will still contend to say it. I don't care who the last people are. The electoral college map, it is what it is, except for 5 states. And it has to be somebody that can win those 5. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota, and
Virginia, Florida.
First, you got to get North Carolina.
Virginia, Florida go back and forth.
First of all, I don't think Virginia's in the mix.
That's my 5th, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, well, Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania.
But I got to ask y'all this here, because, look, I listen to all these ridiculous cable news shows that I can't even bother to watch. And all these people are upset, like, oh, my God, they were going after Obama. Okay. Black people. Let me help you all out. Zoom out. Zoom out. Zoom out. So I need y'all to zoom out. Okay? Zoom out fast. Zoom out fast. Okay, this is my fast. Black people, listen to me. He ain't Jesus. I swear for black people, it's Jesus, MLK, Obama. Let me also help you out, Joe Scarborough, and Mika, and Meghan McCain, and all of y'all out there who like the Democrats have a 97% favorable rating of Obama. A favorable view of Obama does not mean he is above being critiqued. When you heard people last night, I want y'all to weigh in on this, criticize Obamacare, let me remind those of you who forgot. The reason the Affordable Care Act was unpopular wasn't because folks hated it. Republicans hated it. A lot of Democrats felt it didn't go far enough.
Not enough.
The problem, how the mainstream media framed the Affordable Care Act, the Affordable Care Act is grossly unpopular among Americans. No, it was unpopular because many people felt there should be a single payer. I think it is ridiculous for people to act like you can't critique Joe Biden or critique Obama as if he was infallible, as if you can't say, you know what, I didn't like how that was done. I've done it, White House didn't like it, and I don't give a damn they didn't like it. I still say he should have picked a black woman for the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But this notion, Joseph, that you can't say anything critical of 8 years of Obama in a Democratic debate is idiotic to me.
Well, it's bogus. I mean, it's not like none of these criticisms have ever been out there before, right? And it's not like they're going to criticize him in the 2020 campaign. That's all Trump did in winning the White House. And not to mention the fact that you mentioned the Affordable Care Act and that people felt like it didn't go far enough. Let us also recall that there were a lot of conservative Democrats who felt it went too far.
And that's part of the problem. I mean, Roland, you interviewed me on my book, Are We Better Off? Race, Obama, and Public Policy, in which I got my butt kicked by black people who feel like, how dare you criticize Obama? Well, the fact is that the man was better than his alternative, but he certainly was not perfect. And
could have been better. Could have done. Yeah. But all of these people, like, Democrats, what are you doing? You shouldn't be up there criticizing Obama.
So the line that
Hold up, he was in Detroit. A lot of people are still pissed off when he drank a glass of water in Flint and said everything is great. And Flint people saying, no, it's not.
And or when he allowed Detroit to go into bankruptcy and there were interventions that could have occurred that did not occur because he refused to allow the HUD and others to intervene there. But even more than that, I mean, now all these people are in love with reparations. I got tape where I asked the man about reparations. He said, turn the camera off because... That's a funny moment. But anyway, because he was like, reparations, I'm not going to have that in the same sentence with my name. More importantly, are we better off? The fact is that black people are not better off because of the Obama presidency. And he did some things that were neoliberally great, but he also did some things that ignored our communities. And when you looked at poverty, when you looked at unemployment, I could call the role of economic indicators. It was horrible. Cory Booker said something to Joe Biden that we really need to reprise. He said, you can't have it both ways on Obama. You can't lift him up. I was his vice president. If he thinks I'm okay, I'm okay. But then you don't want to respond to the question that Julian Castro asked about immigration. You can't have it both ways.
All I'm saying, Michael, and again, this is the issue that I have, which is why I can't watch most of these cable news shows. Because it's as if nuance doesn't exist. It's as if people are so dumb that, oh, no, you shouldn't say a word about the man. First of all, he knows there were Democrats who disagree with him while he was in the White House. I saw no issue. I saw no issue with people saying, on these issues, Mr. Vice President, where were you? Where were you on deportations? Where were you on this? Yes, Obama was nicer about deportations than Trump is, but they still happen. I just don't, just like I don't believe that if you're Republican running, you couldn't say jack about George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or George H.W. Bush. You can offer a critique and not be nasty, not be mean-spirited.
I was actually just about to say that about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, Republicans want to put him on Mount Rushmore. You can't.
11th commandment.
You're right. You cannot say anything bad about Ronald Reagan, or you'll be kicked out of the Republican Party. Not this Republican Party, the old Republican Party. So I don't know. But going back also to part of the issue related to some of the crime bill of 1994. There was the assault weapons ban was in that bill. Women domestic violence was in that bill. And black mayors all over this country were begging Clinton to sign that bill. So again, that's why it's easy to say, you know what, times have changed. You say that and you get past the issue.
I saw a document. I think it was the ESPN 30 for 30 that was on Len Bias.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And what happened with his death, first of all, he was a star of the University of Maryland, #1 draft pick of the Boston Celtics. He dies. It's tragic. And what did Congress do? Congress did what Congress often does, which was the same thing they did after 9/11 and the Patriot Act.
You overcorrect.
They rushed in, passed a bill,
reactive legislation,
did not listen to the experts say, slow it down. Let's talk about what the repercussions could be of this bill. And then they rushed the bill with Len Bias that ushered in a new era of drug laws. And then it was like, oh my God, what the hell were we thinking? The reality is, to Michael's point, that was the crime bill. If you play back, when people say, well, Bernie Sanders voted for it, that's a speech on the floor where he said, it's going to lead to this, but I'm voting for it because of the protection for women when it came to assault weapons as well. And again, that's where you can say, you're absolutely right. At that moment in time, this is the state of what we were in. This is where I stood. But as I look back on, we did not anticipate these things happening. And now let's fix them. That's all you got to do. So whether you're Biden, whether you're Harris, whether you're Booker, whether you're anybody, it's okay to say, you know what? At that moment in time, if I had a crystal ball, that would not have been my position. But yet, to Michael's point, there were black people, CBC members, mayors, there were families who we were in the throes of crack cocaine. It was people who were not alive then. And this is where I really need people who are Gen Zs and millennial people. That's where you got to stop and say, can y'all give me a sense of what the world was like at that moment to understand exactly what was going on?
You know, Roland, what's interesting, I want to go back to maybe it was like 1990, I'm not sure, when Reverend Jesse Jackson, who has a home on 4th and R Street Northwest, said that he became nervous when young black people walked behind him. Now, there is no stronger civil rights advocate than Reverend Jackson, no more passionate advocate than our people. But he said, he put it out there, I become frightened when some young brothers walk behind me. And so the majority of the CBC went with that crime bill. As Michael says, most black mayors went with that crime bill. There was obviously a media, almost conspiracy to gin this thing up.
It was a hurricane. It was, it was
all these crazy black people jumping people. But the fact is that the sentiment of the nation, because of this media ginning, was that this crime bill was important. There was stuff in it, as you said, the Violence Against Women Act, which was important. There was some crap, I remember, some stuff, they put some money into midnight basketball and other stuff like that.
It was all that.
And so...
It was 100,000 new cops on the street. And for everybody who's watching, let me help y'all out, okay? So, just because I know some of y'all are real special. We're not caping for Biden. We're not caping for Harris or anybody else. What we are doing is explaining to you what actually was happening in the moment, is context and its facts. Now, you can disagree with the end result, but you got to have the facts of actually what happened.
Well, last thing, because I know you're going to move on to another panelist, but the issue, Roland, is that somehow politicians can't acknowledge growth. So what Julian Castro said to Biden is some people have learned lessons and some people have not. Growth is natural. If I was the same person that I was in 1990, I would be a big old fool. And so, just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
So we must evolve, and at positions around this politics evolve.
One of the things I wonder is, like, even though it was bad, and even though the results started to be known, there really wasn't a push to fix it. I mean, we're talking about several successive administrations, right? The crime bill in '94, and we're talking Obama took office in 2008 or 2009, right?
Right.
What happened in the intervening years when all these stats started piling up and you show
people were making money, babe?
Well, first of all, real simple. It wasn't a push because people were ignoring black folks, and until they reached critical mass. And then all of a sudden, when the activists got involved, it began to build up and change, and then became a groundswell there. But what happened was it didn't change until people took to the streets. That was people were out. People were saying they were issuing a clarion call, but it wasn't until people took to the streets.
Yeah, got to force the leaders.
That's what did it,
yeah.
And that's why for people who say protests don't work. No, that's where you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're absolutely wrong. All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, you heard me talk a lot about marijuanastock.org because I want to keep you informed of investment opportunities that make sense. We've all watched the growth of the cannabis industry. A recent report by New Frontier Data estimates the global cannabis market at more than $340 billion. We know that marijuana legalization is sweeping the country state by state. We also know that marijuana has a good cousin, the hemp plant, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the United States and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants. Folks, it's real simple. Now, our good friends at 420 Real Estate, their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Now, 420 Real Estate has decided to do something special for the Roland Martin Unfiltered family. Originally, the minimum investment level was $500, but right now you can invest in the crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, as little as $200 up to $10,000. Again, this is a $340 billion worldwide industry that is still growing, and you can participate with as little as $200. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.